Yeah, I'm trying to fight in November. Knee surgery was a piece of cake. I have to say. I mean, I had a surgeon around me, and he was incredible. Dr. Scalfani, incredible dude. I was in zero pain. I was off of crutches in a week. And honestly, everything is A-okay. I mean, I've been training hard. I just got back in the gym full time literally this week because work's been so crazy for me this summer. But, yeah, it's, my knee is ready to go. I would say it's about 95%, and I'll be fighting again in November.
Right. Was that a wear and tear injury, or was there one specific trauma that caused it?
No, I was kind of forcing a throw, and I was throwing a hip toss, but I was hooking the leg, and instead of just letting it go, I forced it over my knee, and my knee just completely exploded. So it is what it is. It's a life experience, and honestly, it hindered me mentally when I first found out because I was going to still try to fight. But when I had the surgery and I went through it and I'm sitting on my couch, it honestly slowed my life down to a point that, all right, it's time to figure out what I want to do, how I want to do it. And that's when I cut a bunch of the fat out of my life and started my podcast, created my website, came up with a whole bunch of new things. And if it wasn't for my ACL surgery, I probably wouldn't have the organization in my life that I have now.
You touched on just getting back in the gym this week because work's been crazy during the summer. How do you balance that, getting proper training in, get the workouts in you need, and running a business?
I wish I could say I do balance. It's tough, man. A lot of people tell me I got to slow down. I'm just a perfectionist, and I'm my own enemy because I don't like to say no to anyone. So it's tough to balance. I don't know if I'm the best at balancing it. I don't even know if I do balance it, but I find a way every time. And I'm a big Gary Vee fan and Eric Thomas, and I'm a big believer of you don't sleep when you're done. You don't sleep when you're tired. You sleep when you're done. So there's enough time in a day to get everything that you need to get done. And I hate saying tomorrow.
One of the things we like to ask people that come on, we're big on, challenges and leveling up. Do you have any daily practices that you do on the regular to level up or to kind of keep you centered and focused on it, keep your eyes on the prize?
Well, I have a vision board. I have a goal chart. But every morning I wake up, I have coffee, and I listen to a speech or a motivational video. And then from there, then I turn my phone on, then I look at my phone. So I wake up, I let my dogs out, I make some coffee. I live in the woods, so I go out and listen to, if it's a nice day, it's not too cold or it's not raining, I go out and just sit. And then I listen to a speech just to start my day. And then from there, I'll turn on my phone, be like every basic individual out there and scroll through Instagram, check emails, and then start my day.
How do you take your coffee?
A little bit of cream.
Full fat, heavy cream?
No, a little...
Do you do a half?
A little half and half. A little French vanilla half and half.
All right. Are you brewing in like a French press or anything, or are you going Mr. Coffee style?
No, I got a Keurig.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, I got a Keurig. I have a very much a bachelor pad, so as easy as it can be, I've tried to make it.
With the videos, is it like a podcast, or are you just pulling different things? Like one day it's Jocko.
As far as the podcast goes, it's just audio. It's just audio right now. And then I just moved into a new office, so we're actually going to set up a section in the office just for the podcast to do video, because I feel like podcasts are successful with their backgrounds and the location that they have them in, because it kind of sets like that atmosphere every time. Joe Rogan, everybody knows like the purple drape behind Brandon Schaub. He has his couches, so everybody kind of it's always the same.
I was talking about like in your morning ritual with the motivational videos. Are you pulling those off of YouTube, or is it a podcast that you're listening to?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, YouTube. Ed Mellett's a great guy. YouTube, he's on YouTube. I listen to him. I listen to Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, Gary Vee. I listen to a bunch of these guys. Sometimes I just listen to like a compilation of a bunch of them. So,
Frankie, one thing I wanted to ask you, it's a little off topic. I didn't expect us to touch on the epic topics that we've touched on today, which I greatly appreciate. Your first fight in the UFC was on the Conor McGregor-Dennis Silver card. Can you talk about fighting on a Conor McGregor card? Was that any different than your normal fights? I know you said Ring of Combat is your favorite place to fight, but was that any different? Was that any crazier than any of the other UFC cards you've been on?
Yeah, it was wild, man. And a lot of people can say a lot of things about Conor McGregor, but behind he's definitely changed since then. But behind the scenes, he was cool, calm, and collected. But that was definitely a sick experience because people were there super early. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of people there when I went out and fought. Plus, it was like the Patriots were playing that day. It was a Super Bowl, so it was like it was a wild experience for sure.
All right, and one other thing I wanted you to touch on. I'm not really knowledge on what your involvement is, but what is Dead Serious MMA, and what's your involvement in that?
So Dead Serious MMA is my parents' business. They have probably the number one amateur show in New Jersey, New York, and PA, and they are partnered up with Ring of Combat as well. They do MMA fights, kickboxing fights, Muay Thai fights. They just started a professional grappling league, and they're just in it. They're completely invested. They're in it. I handle the whole production aspect of it because I don't want to talk to fighters or deal with any of that stuff. And I have the fun job of hiring all the ring girls. So
nice.
That's what I do.
Now, were you all because of you getting into MMA, right? Your parents had no involvement with MMA before you started training? Yeah. I started the whole thing. My dad was a big supporter and wanted to get invested somehow. So they literally started with 3 T-shirts, a gray, a white, and a black. And it, snowballed into gloves, shorts, all that stuff. And they have a whole Dead Serious fight gear line. And then it turned into the MMA shows. It first started with grappling shows, and then it went to MMA shows. So it's pretty wild how it all came full circle from not letting me wrestle to MMA is our life. Right. That is pretty crazy. Did you get to fight on any of those shows as you were coming up, or was that after you had already went pro that your parents started Dead Serious?
Yeah, no, I never was able to fight on Dead Serious. Yeah, it was after I went pro.
Have you? Has there been guys that started on Dead Serious shows that have made it to the UFC yet?
Oh yeah, Ricky Bandeja started on my dad's show. He's in Bellator. Shane Burgos is in the UFC. Randy Brown's in the UFC. Mickey Gall is in the UFC. There's a bunch of those guys that started with my dad and are in the UFC now.
That must be pretty epic to, what you were saying before, your parents not supporting wrestling and then kind of going all in on MMA and now providing guys opportunities to start their fighting career, and now they're making it to the UFC. That must be pretty epic for you and your family.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, man, it's all my parents. I have nothing to do with it. They come up with the concept, and I just back them on it. My dad is an incredible matchmaker, and my mom's a great bookkeeper. So they're a great team, and they know how to make it work. So I know it's nice now that they're partnering up with Ring of Combat, so they can build the amateurs up the right way, and then when they want to turn pro, they build them up the right way when they turn pro as well. So it's cool to see these kids. A lot of these kids grow up into men.
You can only take credit for the ring car girls, correct?
That's it. We get the best ring car girls in the business.
One other thing I wanted to touch on, we had touched on prior, but you obviously have a
lot of touch in there.
And whatever. You're on a star-studded team with a lot of good MMA fighters and legends. Who has had the biggest impact on you?
Yeah, probably Frankie Edgar, man. I mean, he's and not to say like, Frankie Edgar has looked out for me in so many different ways. He's taught me so much about the game, about life. He believes in me more than I believe in me, which is kind of crazy. And I look up to him like a big brother, like a mentor. You know, him. I'm very, very close with Frankie, with Eddie Alvarez, with Corey Anderson, like Chris Ligori. Those are like my core four. Marlon Moraes too. It's like, but Frankie is our captain, man. We all strive to work as hard as him, be like him, have the same mindset, and he's the reason why I found Ricardo. You know, it wouldn't be any other way.
And how do you think, I know what I think, how do you feel about his decision to go to 135?
That's smart, man. You know, it's smart. He still has a lot of fight in him, you know, and how do you tell a guy that fighting is all he knows? You know, he's a fighter at heart. It's what he does.
Yeah,
so,
I know he's been getting, depending on who you follow, who you listen to, but I know some people were getting down on him for, you know, this is the worst decision of his career, but knowing him as long as I've known him and knowing that he's never really cut weight, like, you know, people cut weight, and what his size is, I think he's going to step right into 135, and he's going to, you know, do just as good, if not better, than what he was doing at 145.
Yeah, you know what it is, man? People are like, what do you think about the Max Holloway fight? I don't think anything of it. I thought he fought a great fight. The problem was when he was having success at 55, at that time, these guys that fought were only good at one thing. They were good wrestlers with the jab. They were, you know, good Muay Thai guys. They were wrestlers. They were good at one aspect. And now, yeah, they were bigger than him, but Frankie was putting it all together then. You know, that's how ahead of our team was then. You know, we were MMA fighters. So now that the guys are getting better at everything, now size is a big factor. You know, size is a huge factor now. So when you have a guy that's, you know, walking around at 155 pounds, fighting a guy that walks around at 185 pounds, and I don't give a crap how good of a wrestler or how good a boxer or whatever it is, size is eventually going to be a factor that's going to, you know, not withstand you winning the fight, regardless if you have a great height or not. So, I mean, this is a sport too, man. Anything could have happened. You know, he could have caught Max. You know, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but he's going to finally start fighting guys that are his size, which is good for him, but also good for his family and us, you know, because we don't want to see this kid take the damage that he takes sometimes. It's rough. It's rough on the eyes.
Yeah, definitely can get a little cringeworthy at times, but like I said,
yeah.
I think size-wise, height-wise, and knowing that he's never really had to cut serious weight, I think he's going to do fine at 135, and I think you're going to see him get right back into that title mix pretty quickly.
Yeah. But
Frankie, you've been
yeah, man.
super gracious with your time, and I've enjoyed the hell out of this conversation. Before we get you out of here, is there anything that you got going on that we haven't brought up that you